Welcome in, everyone, to the first episode of the Gridiron Gang Show, NFC West Live Breakdown Show. Tonight, I'm your host, Bryce Coutts from the Hawkseye, but with me, I've got Jason Aponte from the Sprint Right Option podcast, looking after the 49ers. We've got Blake Murphy up in the top left corner there from the Red Reboot, I think it's Red Bird Reboot podcast,
Red Bird
if I'm
Reboot.
right on that. All right, so we're good there. And then we just had Blaine... And we got Blaine Grisak in here from the Rams Callsheet podcast. So, guys, welcome to the show.
Good to be on.
All right, guys, this is what we'll do. This is going to be a lot of fun. So what we'll do, guys, viewers, get your comments in from each team fraction. We make sure, guys, to keep the comments in the chat professional. Like, don't get into a whole bunch of hate stuff. The show's about collaboration, discussing the division as a whole. So first thing up, guys, let's go through an NFC go-around. So obviously the last 48 hours have kind of been, injury reports are coming out, a bunch of different things. Guys, I'll start with you, Jason. How are you feeling down there in the Bay, or in your case, I know you're on the East Coast, but how are you feeling about your 49ers going into the game on Sunday?
Well, the good news was short-lived. We had 70 players that were healthy, and then obviously after you get that report, it almost felt like, okay, that's what you get for celebrating. The Christian McCaffrey thing pops up. So, that's the elephant in the room. But other than that, you really can't be too upset with what you're getting. The Christian McCaffrey thing is obviously big, but you knew Brandon Ayuk wasn't going to be ready. You knew Malik Mustafa wasn't going to be ready. That's fine and all good. But if everybody else is ready to go, you really can't ask for anything more, especially with all the injuries. So, we'll figure out what's going on with McCaffrey here. He says he's fine. Kyle Shanahan says he doesn't know if we're going to be alive on Sunday. We'll figure this out, and there's got to be somewhere in the middle with this.
Blake, how you feeling in Arizona there going into week one?
Hey, I mean, we get to play the Saints week one. So, I don't know about you guys with the division games that's going on at least, or how everything's shaping up with the Rams this year. But you feel like you're healthy going into week one. The Saints just lost Chase Young, it seems like, in practice. And you feel like this is the first year the Cardinals actually have some talent on the defensive side of the ball, maybe the first time since since they lost J.J. Watt. You feel at least that you're hopefully going to take a step forward. We don't want us to take a step back, because that would kind of defeat this rebuild you've done for the last couple of years down in the desert.
And Blaine, how are you feeling there in LA with the Rams?
Yeah, no, I think you look at, the injury report this week was pretty clean for the Rams. And you look at 2023 and go back to last year. And, while the Rams have been dealing with injuries all offseason with Stafford's back and Larry Jackson managing some blood clots, this is as healthy as you would like to be for a team with Super Bowl aspirations going into week one. So I think, everything looks okay with Stafford right now. We'll see what happens after week one. I think those are kind of where the questions are right now. But, feeling pretty good.
Yeah, and down in Seattle here, our thing was we've got a couple guys out. Obviously, 3 guys are inactive going into Sunday's matchup with Jason's 49ers. But the biggest one for me was Anthony Bradford. It got reported yesterday he sat out of practice because he had a back injury of some sort. And all I could think of was finally Seattle looks like they've got, an offensive line that's about to come together. And before week one, we've already got an injury to it. And the worst part for Seattle is, if that injury had stood and Bradford wasn't going to be able to go, having Jalen Sundell, who's now our starting center, would have to bump to guard, and we'd have to bring Olu in. There's a lot of shuffling that goes on. Not something I was really looking forward to going into that game versus the 49ers. But, guys, let's kind of go into this. Let's talk about this. And this is an interesting topic, and it's the fears of each of our team, currently how they're constructed, how you're looking at this season. Jason, I'll start with you again. What are some of your biggest fears when it comes to the San Francisco 49ers team?
That the current plan of, Jimmys and Joes and stars and scrubs, falls apart basically with any sort of injuries to Christian McCaffrey or, George Kittle or Trent Williams or Fred Warner or Nick Bosa. If those guys miss any sort of time, this roster, the way that it's constructed, and they stole this plan from the Rams, was, hey, we're just going to try to retool this thing on the fly and see if we can stay competitive. But the level of variance of where this team can be is they can win 12 games, they could win 4. So their range of outcomes is as wide as this, as wide as long as my arms are. You know, I'm 6'5". That's how long. You know, the problem is that if those guys go down, now you're relying on rookies, right? Like even last year, you could say the same thing, but those players were veterans that they were leaning on. Leonard Floyd, right? You know, those guys. Those guys have had actual NFL games under their belt. If these guys go down, oh, you're looking at guys who have not seen NFL action ever. So the Jimmys and Joes, stars and scrub thing is the scariest thing, because if these guys are not playing in their games and not lifting this offense, I mean lifting this team while they're waiting for this plan to formulate, things can go sideways pretty quickly, even if they do have the strength of schedule, which is a bunch of BS, because that's those 2024 teams are not walking in the door today. And that's why I can't rely on the strength of schedule thing. It's like like, oh, our schedule's weakened. Yeah, but those aren't the 2024 teams that are going to pop up and play you, right? Like that's not who's walking through the door. It's teams that have improved. It's teams that have coaching changes and scheme changes. So it's really the Jimmys and Joes thing, man. If it doesn't work out, this thing can go left.
So one thing I wanted to ask you about that with the fears there, Jason, is what position group scares you the most, or room scares you the most on your team currently?
So 49er fans will want me to say offensive line, but I'm going to say defensive line. Uh, Nick Bosa, Michael Williams, and then you pick with the defensive tackles. CJ West, Alfred Collins were drafted. Alfred Collins is not starting. CJ West is probably going to be mixed in. Like those types of things, when you look at it, you're probably looking at Kalia Davis and Jordan Elliott starting. That's not something that's really going to make be afraid if you're an opposing offensive line, to be frank. So I would say probably everybody would want to say offensive line, because if one of those guys goes down, it's a problem. But defensive line, if you're talking about what this is, what it can be is one thing. What it is right now is a completely other thing. So again, the level of variance, possibility, reality. Possibly, it's like the mystery box. The defensive line could be a really good defensive line, possibly, but it could be something really bad. So I mean, again, it's just the defensive line. I would say is probably my biggest issue and the thing that I'm worried about the most.
All right, Blake, what about you up there in Arizona? What for you is your biggest fear, and then what's your biggest fear positionally for the Cardinals this season?
I think the biggest fear for Arizona Cardinals fans is if we get to the end of this season and Kyler Murray is the fourth best quarterback in the division behind the likes of Sam Darnold, Brock Purdy, and Matthew Stafford, because a lot of Cardinals fans have looked at this and said he needs to take that step forward to be able to actually live up to the number one overall pick billing, to be able to actually say that, hey, Matthew Stafford is getting up there at 30, I think it's 36, 37 years old. You're going to be looking at seeing if you can have that guy take the next step to be able to actually elevate this team. So I think that's the biggest question mark, is if you get through this year and Kyler's not going to be ranked ahead of Brock Purdy, he's not going to be ranked ahead of Sam Darnold. And then if you look at it and say, hey, Stafford, I don't think anyone's questioning he's the best quarterback in the division. The health and availability has been kind of the biggest thing back and forth over the past 3 or so years since that Super Bowl. The biggest concern, I think, overall, or at least as far as with the team, is you take a look at their depth chart in 2024 on offense, and you look at their depth chart on defense. Defense is like night and day, incredibly different as far as the cornerbacks that they have, the defensive linemen that they have, even swapping out some of the linebackers. Offense, it's like identical. They added a 6th round pick in Hayden Connor, who's on IR to start the year, is probably not going to end up starting at any point throughout the season. So you're talking about Kyler needing to kind of take this offense and move it forward after they didn't really do anything to upgrade the line. They didn't do anything to upgrade the receivers. They're just kind of trusting that Kyler Murray and Marvin Harrison Jr. are going to patch up at least the issues that they had last year on what was a good running team, but had something to be desired in the pass game.
And Blaine, what is your biggest fear with the Rams? Obviously, I think we all can attest that your probably biggest fear is whether or not Matthew Stafford will make it through the season without ending up in a wheelchair at this point.
Yeah, I think that probably is my biggest fear. Biggest fear right now is like I said earlier, Stafford, as far as the Rams have said, as far as Stafford has said, he's fine, but he's also 37 years old, and as someone who's 32 in 2 weeks, my back hurts every morning. So I can only imagine what it's like at 37 and dealing with an aggravated disc. So Yeah, I don't think there's really any questions about as far as his health goes going into week one. But how does he handle a full game's workload? What happens when he's taking hits from Will Anderson, Nick Bosa, et cetera, and just all of the physical things that come with playing quarterback. How does he manage that over the course of a 17-game season? That is probably my biggest concern. Position wise, I understand, I guess, why the Rams didn't address the cornerback position. They have two, I guess, knowns in Ahkello Witherspoon and Darius Williams, but at this so you have kind of a high floor there, I guess, but at the same time you have kind of a limited ceiling, and I don't think Ahkello Witherspoon and Darius Williams are really scaring opposing offenses by any means. I think obviously look at the pass rush and hope that pass rush can elevate the cornerbacks on the outside, but at the same time I have serious concerns about how they can hold up when the pass rush doesn't get home.
Like, guys, those are all amazing kind of things to be fearful of in some respects. And down in, like, for us in Seattle, like, I think our biggest fear still is, will this O-line come together? Like, if this O-line doesn't come together, are we going to see New York Jet level Sam Darnold, because he's going to be running for his life and we don't have a run game and all those things? Because so much right now in Seattle is predicated on that front five working together, getting to going on this system with Clint Kubiak and being able to run the ball, because we haven't been a very good running team. From you look back at that, era of Seahawks football with Pete Carroll when we were going to Super Bowls, we ran the ball and played good defense. That was basically it. And then Russell Wilson occasionally would run around and the defense would lose track of a receiver and we throw it down the field. We haven't had that. And we've tried to play other variations, the let Russ cook era. We've tried to, with Geno and the pass happiness that there was last year. I think that for me is the biggest fear, is this O-line doesn't come together and work, and we're still stuck in neutral as a team. I would say fear-wise position group, it's the inside linebackers for Seattle, which may shock some people, but for me, it's the depth behind Ernest Jones and Tyrese Knight. I know we ended up stealing Chris Paul from your Rams there, Blaine, and we ended up taking Surratt away from the 49ers as well. But those two guys make me feel a little bit more comfortable, but not a lot if we're to lose Ernest Jones or Tyrese Knight for any significant time. So speaking of those two guys, I got to ask you guys, I'll start with you, Blaine. What can you tell me about Chris Paul as a player? Like, what went wrong for him not to make it through the Rams, final cuts?
Yeah, I don't necessarily think it's something that went wrong, but rather the Rams found a diamond in Sean Dolak as an undrafted free agent, and Dolak really impressed throughout the entire preseason. And that's not to say Chris Paul Jr. didn't play well during the preseason. And there's so much more that goes on behind the scenes as far as what goes on in practice and things like that. And Chris Paul Jr. did miss some time, I believe, with the groin injury. So he did miss some, I believe, the beginning of training camp. So yeah, I think it's just more about what Sean Dolak did rather than what Chris Paul Jr. didn't do. And just one of those things, unfortunately, just didn't work.
Jason, what can you tell me about Surratt?
So Surratt is, anybody that was in an elevator with Robert Saleh as the New York Jets head coach ended up back in Santa Clara. And, that's not a slight to Surratt at all. He's a special teams guy. He's somebody that they like his makeup and everything, but it came down to a numbers game. When you sign Luke Gifford as a special teams ace, and, now he's our third linebacker. By the way, I have a feeling you're going to see a lot of Luke Gifford on Sunday on the field as well, too, when they're trying to slow down this outside zone. So, the signing of Gifford, they like Tatum Batoon a lot. I don't necessarily think there was anything wrong with Chaz Surratt, and that's why you guys were so quick to jump on him, because it's not that he's a bad football player. Good football players get cut all the time, but he was one of the guys that was with Robert Saleh, with the Jets, had that familiarity, and they wanted to bring him in and give him a shot. Just didn't work out over here.
So I'll go with this, and I'll start with you on this one, Blake. How do you think your fear for your position group wise, the fear that you brought up, is it something that you think will basically take the Cardinals off the tracks when it comes to having a successful season this year?
I don't think it will. I think the biggest question is going to be what happens, or when what goes wrong, because something always goes wrong with every team. Like, teams are going to lose a starter to injury. Someone's not going to step up that you're looking for. What we've seen the Cardinals do over this year that they haven't done in years past is build depth The depth that they've built has pretty much been across the board at every single position. Save at wide receiver, they're kind of trusting Zay Jones after having a pretty quiet first season with the team where he was coming off of injury, suspended. I kind of don't be surprised if he ends up finishing in the team kind of in third in receiving yards or receptions. That's kind of going to be the guy who they're trusting alongside with Michael Wilson. And when it really comes to the Cardinals, the one guy that you really think that you can't really afford to lose, you'd hope, on offense is Trey McBride, because he's probably been right up there with George Kittle as far as the elite tight ends in the game as it stands, being able to block effectively and go out and being just a beast in the receiving game. Even still, like, you're kind of going to be expecting that Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to be able to step up in that top receiving role should Trey miss time. And they do have a 1-2 punch behind him with Elijah Higgins as the main pass catcher and Tip Ryman, who they took last year as a third-round rookie, as the main blocking tight end. So they're in a spot where it doesn't feel like that the team is going to be inhibited from being able to go out and compete. The biggest change that they really made was to address the fact that they didn't have a solid, capable backup behind Kyler Murray. Now they do in Jacoby Brissett, someone who can go out there, be able to be effective enough, I think, in his role to be able to go out and maybe not win games because of him, but you're not going to lose games like you would have with someone like a Clayton Tune. I think it's a spot where Arizona approached this season like they knew it was we got to go ahead and make this our playoff run. They splashed a bunch of cash and drafted specifically on their 23rd ranked overall defense to be able to address and fill some of those holes to be competitive.
Blaine, what about for you? What could derail, out of your fears, do you think it could derail the Rams season?
I think just as far as like the secondary goes and the cornerbacks, and I think the hope is that the pass rush does elevate what the Rams do have in the secondary. But what if what if the pass rush doesn't get home? What if the Rams what if they suffer an injury at cornerback? Then they're relying on guys like Kobe Durant, Josh Wallace, just a lot of unproven guys behind them. So, like I said earlier, I understand why the Rams didn't address a cornerback with one of their higher draft picks. So they found a really good player that they liked in Terrence Ferguson, and if you have conviction on a guy, you should go for that guy in the draft. But so when it comes to everything the Rams have done this season, it's all been about raising their floor, not necessarily having a high ceiling, because they know what their ceiling is. So it's just about raising their floor a little bit. So relying on guys like Akella Witherspoon and Darius Williams made sense, but Darius Williams, you kind of don't know what you're going to get from him at this point in his career. Don't believe he had an interception last year. Akella Witherspoon getting up there in age a little bit as well, and again, not necessarily someone you want as your top cornerback. So yeah, there's just if the pass rush doesn't home or if they suffer some injuries there, they're kind of thin behind those two. So a lot could go wrong there for sure.
All right, Jason, and I'll finish with you. You talked about the defensive line being kind of your fear. So is that defensive line, if it doesn't work, do you think it's enough to derail your 49ers season?
I still don't think that's the way that they derail the season. I think they can get by because they can't have a worse run defense than they had last season. It's almost physically impossible. Like if you ever hear the adage of like it's only way is up. I don't think they're going to go from 28 to 31st. And if they do, then we've got to have a bigger discussion. I think it's just injuries to the big stars, right? Like this season, for the first time in the Kyle Shanahan era, they are absolutely depending on high-end talent, and for good reason. You paid all of them. These are guys that are going to get gold jackets. They're all pros. They're Hall of Famers. That's fine. But they have to do all of the heavy lifting. Now add into that with Brock Purdy. If any of these guys, Brock Purdy, Trent Williams, Nick Bosa, Fred Warner, George Kittle, if any of them, Christian McCaffrey, if any of them miss extended periods of time, that will derail the season, because while you are excited about players, you can be optimistic about them. That's true. Development has bumps and bruises, and that's the idea. We'll take the bumps and bruises with development, but we need our guys to carry us that we pay all this money to, that are going to end up as all pros and up on this top 100 player list. If any of those guys miss extended time, it spells death for this team, just because those are the guys that are expected to carry this team in 2025.
I find it kind of interesting, Jason, that you're saying it can't possibly like get worse, because I don't know if you guys are familiar. There's a thing called Murphy's Law that's out there. It says anything that can go wrong will go wrong. I came up with what I call Blake Murphy's Law, which is you say it can't possibly get any worse. I always say, well, it can. It doesn't mean that it will, but it always can. I like the example. I looked at that as Cardinals fans in 2022 were like, guys, we have like a 4-8 record. It can't possibly get any worse. And Kyler Murray tears his ACL. Well, okay, well, it can't get any worse. And then Colt McCoy's out for the rest of the season. All right, well, at least we can put in our third string. Oh, we can't even play this guy, so we're having to take Trace McSorley off of the street and just trot him out there for the last 3 games where we have losses by a total of 4 points before we get blown up by the Niners in JJ Watt's retirement game, essentially, to finish where the team was at I think it was the 3rd overall pick. We landed at the 1 pick that we could have gotten tons and tons of draft picks for. At least we traded out of that pick, landed 1 pick just below that. So whatever you say, it can't get any worse. It's like, well, it can get worse. Doesn't mean that it will, like you said. I think the Niners will do better, like you said, this year because of flooding the position. But it is a spot of like, it can always get worse. We just don't like to think about that, because why do we do this then if things end up getting worse?
Well, I will say this, Blake. First of all, thank you for taking Kyler Murray and allowing Nick Bosa to sit in our lap. You know, like, I appreciate that, like, off the rip, like, by the way. But the reason that I say that look, I'm not a bet. Well, I am a betting man. That's the reason that I'm so upset that Xavier Worthy left this game. But I am a betting man for this reason. The 49ers last year essentially handed over the defensive coordinator job to a guy who should have been selling hot dogs in the stands. Now, Robert Saleh comes over, and regardless of the talent that's around, right? Like, the scheme itself has to get better. And I have no doubt that Bob Saleh can do that. You know, if you're talking about with them handing over the keys to him, not only did Robert Saleh walk in and say, "This is my defense, and look at me, Kyle. I'm the captain now. You don't get to talk about, you know, who's going to be up and down." Not only that, we're locking you out of the draft room and drafting only defensive players. We'll let you take your 1 running back and then, you know, get on out again. And then I'm going to continue to take defensive guys. The reason that it can't get any worse is because Robert Saleh is too good as a tactician to let it happen. Now, you can probably clip this when, you know, the 49ers end up having the worst run defense in the league, and that's fine or whatever. But I feel very confident in the fact that it's I don't think so either. I don't think so either. That's all I was saying. It's more about, yes, you know, you feel good about what you brought in, but yes, you feel good about the guy who's going to be calling plays because the keys are just handed right over to him.
Yeah, and I guess for me, guys, my biggest fear is the O-line not working and Sam Darnold falling apart and Clint Kubiak not working out. Like this, for me, it all really revolves around this offense and how this new staff they brought in works. How does Sam Darnold work? Like, there's been a lot of departure, and that's for a lot of reasons why a lot of national analysts have picked us to finish 4th. Is there's a lot of turnover that's happened on the Seattle on one side of the ball. Now, I'm not worried about our defense. Mike McDonald is like the new defensive guru, and he's returning everybody. But I'll have to be honest, the offense is kind of still, for me, like, I think it's going to be good, but that would be real our season. If our offense can't get on track, our defense can only do so much on their own. So, but let's move on, guys, to the other side of this coin, and let's talk about the strengths. Like, what do you think gives your team the best advantage and strength to win the division, right? That's the ultimate goal here amongst, well, besides the Super Bowl, but it's to win your division because it guarantees you a shot at getting into the dance for the Super Bowl. Blaine, I'll start with you. What is the biggest strength this year for the Rams?
I have to bring up the pass rush. Obviously, we have Jared Verse, Byron Young, Kobe Turner, Braden Fisk. All these guys are ready to just be unleashed and go after the quarterbacks. I think as far as the defense goes, that's the biggest strength. But I think you look at this Rams team overall. You got Matthew Stafford, you have Puka Nacua, and you have our big free agent signing, Davante Adams. And Davante Adams, he's probably the closest the Rams have had to a true X wide receiver since they since they claimed Odell Beckham Jr. off of waivers back in 2021. So the sky is the limit for this offense. Over the last couple of years, the offense hasn't really good. I don't think it's been elite like you would expect a Sean McVay offense to be. But I think with the addition of Davante Adams, I think it's going to unlock some things that we just haven't seen from this Rams offense in a couple of years.
All right, Blake, I'll pivot to you. What is the biggest strength you think that will give Arizona the ability to win the division this year?
Yeah, I think that when you're looking at the stability that Arizona's bringing with a lot of the changes and unknowns with other teams, like they have a very aggressive, hard-hitting mindset. Like they ended up finishing last year as actually the top team in total DVOA, I believe, but the strength was ultimately in their run game. Like they just were going to line it up and pound it. Like I know with the Niners, the last game of the season, at least for that one, it was just a spot where it was like you had a bad run defense against a good rushing attack, and it just was like no contest for the most part. At least that's something that I think will carry through because this is a team that is trying to be the best at running the ball in a division that wants to run the ball. So I think that when all things are kind of put there, it's been the defense that's needed to really catch up. And what the hope is that this year is that you're going to be getting a more healthy Kyler Murray. He's admitted that he wasn't quite at 100% running the football last year. He feels like he's there now. Things can always change in that regard, of course, but that's the thing. I think if you're going to talk about what would carry, it would be that the offense's passing game takes a step forward while the run game is that thing they rely on to control the clock, keep another team's offense off of the field, and just be able to wear down teams as not just the game goes on, but hopefully as the season goes on.
Okay, Jason, you're the last one here. What do you think the strength is that will help the Niners win the division?
Their coordinators, their coaching. I mean, if Kyle Shanahan is so widely regarded across the league, which by the way, the Athletic, they polled whatever defensive coaches and things like that, and they said he's the number one headache. Okay, well, you know what? I've seen Kyle Shanahan turn water to wine at times, especially with Jimmy Garoppolo as the quarterback. So this has to be your season where no matter what's going on, right around you. And no disrespect to you, Blaine. By the way, you have the best backup quarterback in the NFL, by the
Yes.
way, and the most handsome, like 100%. Like there's
100%,
no
yes.
question about it. Yeah, there's no like that's what the
Jalen
49ers
Hurts is
admit.
close. Jalen Hurts is close, but
No. Well, it depends on who you ask, and this is why I implored the San Francisco 49ers to make sure they got Sam Hartman as their third emergency quarterback because they're missing that handsome factor. That's the little part of this team that's missing right now. It's just that. But it's got to be Kyle Shanahan, right? I've watched him with way less on the roster, right? Like he's made Jawan Jennings feel like he's a $20 million receiver. Put it like that. There's no two ways about it. That it is about what Kyle Shanahan can do, and he's performed miracles sometimes with these rosters, right? And on the other side, Robert Saleh is literally again the best defensive coordinator that they've had since Robert Saleh. I mean, they literally went around from Steve Wilkes, and they even tried to ask Bill Belichick to come out of out of retirement, and he said no. They tried to go to Steve Spagnuolo. They've been looking for it. They just landed on Nick Sorensen, and that's what happened last season with the defense. It has to be lifting by coaching, and what I mean by that is the roster itself has it's high end, it's top heavy. We understand that. But if you're going to get the most out of this, they've got to be put in the positions to win. And both of these coordinators, which is Kyle Shanahan, the head coach, and I say coordinator, that means, I'm not trying to talk crazy about Clay. Yeah, I'm not trying to talk crazy about Clay Kubiak, right? Like, we've got the Kubiak revenge game going on here on Sunday as well, too. But I mean, like, he's the guy that has been able to, generate offense. And he's also made you believe that, well, not made you believe, but made people believe Nick Mullins is the starting quarterback, and Jimmy Garoppolo is a viable option over 17 games in an entire season. He's made Brock Purdy into what he's made it as a quarterback as well too. Like he made Matt Schaub look like a Pro Bowler. So it has to be the coaching. That's the way that you're going to win this, right? And it has to be a masterclass of coaching and also getting around the fact that these guys are going to take bumps and bruises where they are, but you have to be able to put these guys in position to win. And I think it's got to be both of those guys.
Well, I think it's pretty easy for me in Seattle what my strength is, and I'm not worried about is our defense. Like our defense to me and what Mike McDonald's going to get to do with, they've added some pieces for him and Nick Emanwari and DeMarcus Lawrence to areas that I think they needed maybe a little bit more depth, a little bit more of an impact from. I have, that to me is the best part of this for Seattle's defensive wise is I think outside of the Rams and what you guys are building there and even the Niners, when they eventually, I think, get their guys all on the same page, this division is going to go back. And even to the Cardinals, this division is going to go back to being a defensive division where you look back years ago, defenses truly dominated this division in a lot of ways. Like even, and I'll give you this really bad flashback, Blaine. the Jeff Fisher Rams had good defenses, even though you guys couldn't get above 8 wins in a season with Jeff Fisher.
Hey, we always showed up against the Seahawks, though. So that's
You
all
did.
that matters.
I always hated that. Even the year we won the Super Bowl, I went, I don't want to play the Rams. I don't want to play the Rams because I know these games are going to suck playing the Rams.
Yeah, it was the same with us with Cardinals fans. We would be like, oh, we get to play the Rams, and then our quarterback's going to get injured. Like, that was always how it was going to be.
That was your guys' problem.
It was like, Carson Palmer, concussed. Oh, who would have seen that coming at least? Oh, we lost our backup. Cool. It's going to be third stringer going in now at least. Thank you, Aaron.
Ryan Lindley, Blake. Ryan Lindley was going to save your
that's where
season.
Blake Murphy's Law came from. It's like anything that can go wrong can go worse. It's like that was the Ryan Lindley whole thing at least. But yeah, no one was happier to see Aaron Donald retire than Kyler Murray is what we joked about in Arizona when that happened. So,
and it's like us with the Cardinals. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, I still have visions of Colt McCoy whipping our ass in Levi Stadium.
God.
Like, I just like it. This is what's funny about our division, right? Like, the Seattle 49ers thing is one thing. We understand the Rams and 49ers thing, but it's always the Cardinals that are just giving us fits. They kicked our ass twice last year. Like, it's always, no matter who's there, they always give us problems, and that's what you got to love about the division.
We finally go out there. We're so close to beating the Rams, and we lose the Seahawks twice, and then we have one loss, of course, to the Blue Cat team, which for some reason Arizona Blue Cat teams, Lions and Panthers, don't do well. Lose one of those, like, oh great, we beat Seattle once. We're probably playing for the division against the Rams instead. We're just trying to play spoiler. It's just always fun with this division because it's pretty equally weighted, and even though there's always someone who's like the worst team year in and year out, they'll always go and knock them off. Like 2013 Cardinals was hilarious. The Seahawks went on to win the Super Bowl that year in a blowout, and the one home loss they had in like 2 years was like to this Cardinals team that's throwing like their third string left tackle out there, where they're like, we got to run the ball with a tight end at left tackle because we literally have nobody else, and they go out and like manage to get a win. And like, it's just crazy how these different storylines kind of line up for these teams, and I think it's part of what makes this one of the most intriguing divisions in football that people just sometimes don't pay attention to because it's on the West Coast.
Well, and it's interesting when I look at Seattle and I look at how they match up. Like, we've always struggled with the Rams defense. That's just been something for us. When it comes to the Niners, that has probably usually been our most evenly matched game in the division. And then, to be honest, Blake, I hate your stadium. I hate that place so much. I would love to see it just burn after losing the Super Bowl. The entire LOB died there, basically.
Right, with Earl Thomas.
Pete Carroll and Russell Wilson's careers ended from Seattle there as well. Their last game was there. Like, literally everything that has gone wrong in Seattle history outside of Super Bowl 40 and losing the Steelers has occurred in your stadium. It is a nightmare of horrors for Seattle fans. That is why I'm not looking forward to the Week 4 matchup. I'm going, can we just get into Arizona, get the win, get out? That's all I care about. I don't care what it looks like. Just get in and get out. That's all that matters when we go to Arizona. But let's go to this, guys. I think everyone kind of knows who we're going to pick with this, but division winner. So we're probably all going to pick our own teams, but what I want you guys to do is explain why you think your team's going to win the division this year. So we'll start with you, Blake. Why will the Cardinals win the division?
I think if you're going to say why the Cardinals are going to win the division, it's going to be because Kyler's going to have his best year and the defense is going to actually force takeaways and turnovers at a rate that they haven't, because they actually have like a defensive line with depth and have, after years of drafting, like a good young secondary with Budda Baker is like the one. I think Jalen Thompson I should count for something too. Like, he's kind of the unsung hero back there. But like, this is a team that when you take a look at it, you're like, this is just probably going to be a good team. Like, they got talent all up and down for the most part, like that one. They're bringing everyone back. It's solid. And it's a team that at least this is kind of where they're striking, I think, at the right time, where if you look at how the division is going with the Niners, even though they're bringing back Robert Saleh, tons of change happening in Seattle. Rams, it's like the division is yours if you get a healthy Stafford. Is Stafford going to be healthy? And how healthy, I think, is the biggest question mark as far as the whole season goes. It's going to be, I think, ultimately too, because like if this is the year where it doesn't happen for Kyler Murray, the Cardinals are probably going to be looking at some sort of a retool. Now, maybe you get to that stupid 10 wins and 7 losses, you miss the playoffs, and everyone's like, what are we doing kind of a season? But I think that part of it is that stability that they have that we've seen in the year 3 with Jonathan Gannon. And, you know, you talk about with what we've seen with the coordinators, the Cardinals have kind of been turning chicken bleep into chicken salad with Nick Rallis, the 31-year-old guy who's younger than me. And he's already getting tons of praise around the league because he's got such a unique and diverse scheme where they're just mixing up their safety rotations. They've got different defensive linemen that are being able to rotate in. Like, they went from being one of the worst defenses, but still being able to go out and get at least pressure on the quarterback. So last year, they were 15th overall in defense. You take a look and you're like, I don't know a single name of a guy on that defensive line because all the guys they signed that offseason, their first-round pick, Darius Robinson, missed the entirety of the season, essentially. And they still managed to, like, make it work and have a decent enough defense to be competitive. Now this year, they've have an influx of talent on the defensive side. We'll see when Walter Nolan plays. That's the one unfortunate injury, but getting some veteran defensive linemen, seeing Will Johnson fall to the second round. I think all of those additions on the defensive side, plus having the stability on the offensive side, is why they would win the division this year.
All right, Jason, I'll pivot to you. Why did the 49ers win this division?
Because the high-end talent that they have isn't just high-end talent. It's the highest of the high-end talent. George Kittle's the best. Trent Williams the best. Fred Warner the best. Right? Nick Bosa, I don't think he's the best, but he's a top 3 guy. And if those guys are going to perform, I feel very good about this. And what I really want to point to is the 49ers secondary. And the 49ers secondary has been such an issue year after year. And the way that they've combated that is by having pass rush. So pass rush has to link with your secondary. But your secondary now with Diamador Lenore, who, by the way, should fire his agent for the deal that he signed halfway through the season, because it is an absolute joke what he's about to get paid to be a top 10 cornerback in this league. Renardo Green, who had an amazing season, Malik Mustafa, you bring in Jason Pinnock, we're fine. We'll figure out with Jair Brown, but the secondary now is not an issue. And the 49ers in 2019, it was Richard Sherman and Jimmy Ward, who, by the way, I think the world of, but nobody else does. But right now, the secondary is now about to allow coverage sacks for the defensive line. And that's something that I never thought in my lifetime I'd be able to see. So I think it's going to be the secondary that's going to be way more formidable than it's ever been. I think the play caller on the defensive side has evolved his scheme in a nice way. And Bryce, I'll tell you this. The only play caller that I enjoyed watching more in preseason than Robert Saleh was Mike McDonald. And you know why? Mike McDonald was showing you the vanilla stuff that he was throwing in with the way that he's running his secondary. And Robert Saleh was showing you the stuff that he's going to show you in front of the line and drop off. Like, I can't in one breath tell you that I'm really excited about Mike McDonald and what he's doing. And I mean, excited just from a football psycho mind, like not a competitive fan style, but if I'm excited about Mike McDonald, I can not be excited about Robert Saleh, like what he's doing. Like, you can't in one breath say, it's only preseason and it's only No, like, I agree for 100% that Mike McDonald is great and Robert Saleh is going to be somebody who is going to have a massive season. But the secondary has got me very excited, and those are all young guys. But as long as the guys that they pay, the guys that are the best at their position play, then they are in a position to win the division. And also, good coaching, by the way. So,
yeah, no, I can't wait for that matchup either on Sunday, Jason, to see these coordinators for offense and defense on the Niners and Seahawks kind of go at it and play chess, even though it is week 1, and that's usually just a crapshoot anyways. But, Blaine, I'll pivot to you. Why do the LA Rams win the division this year?
Yeah, I think they win it. I mean, they're the defending champs, right? They went and did it last year. I think they're in a different place than. I mean, to all due respect to you guys' team, I think they're just in a different place than the Cardinals and the Seahawks are both kind of in this. They're up and coming. This team kind of in transition, probably a year away from being really good. I think they're a year ahead of the 49ers, who are coming off of kind of what the Rams dealt with in 2022. The 49ers are kind of just retooling their roster with some younger talent. This Rams team, they have Super Bowl aspirations for a reason. I mean, that's why you go out and get a Devontae Adams. They've developed this young talent over the last couple of years, and Kobe Turner, Puka Nacua, guys that these guys got playoff experience playoff experience the last 2 years. They're ready to take that next step. So I think this is a team where hopefully they don't lose the forest for the trees and kind of overlook the NFC West by any means. But yeah, no, I think the goal for this team, if they don't win the NFC West, I think it'll be a disappointment, and if they and hopefully make a deep playoff run afterwards.
So, as a lifelong Rams fan, real quick, Bryce, as a lifelong Rams fan, I believe that you should trade Jared Verse to the San Francisco 49ers. Like that's just like that's just really where I'm at with it.
Oh gosh.
I was gonna say, Jason, there's one team that's
while you're
grateful for that deal that the Commodore Lenore got. It's the Cardinals, because we got Garrett Williams, who's been like a top 10 cornerback at least for them the last 2 years or so. And it's like, after seeing that deal, it's like, oh, maybe we can afford to like keep him around for the most part. So it's going to be interesting with just some of the young talent that we've seen with the, like you said, the secondaries. It seems like there's been a lot of infusion that we've seen as far as young, and for some reason the Seahawks now almost like have a veteran secondary. Like that's kind of weird to like think through at this point.
Hey, I'll take my veteran secondary down here that's under the age of 30. I will take that if that's considered a veteran secondary.
Oh yeah.
Can I ask a favor of all three of you guys, because I know that you guys have the ear of the franchise, and this is where it really matters. Can you stop drafting so damn well? Like, I'm tired of it. Like, I really don't like, getting Walter Nolan and Will Johnson, like real cool. Getting Jared Verse and Brandon Fisk, like real, like nice job. Getting Nick Emenwari, like can you guys like tell them to chill out like just a little bit? Like, that would just be my one request.
I mean, you kept all. I mean, honestly, maybe we should take this into account, because you did all of our requests of hiring former Cardinals coach Steve Wilkes. You guys hired Brandon Staley at least the last year. Like, Cardinals are going to face him week 1 against the Seattle.
So maybe, what's funny is Steve Wilkes was far better than he got like destroyed for. Like, and what's funny is the safety that they drafted in the 3rd round before they absolutely burned a pick on a specialist, which, by the way, I don't know if any of you guys know me. I despise kickers. I don't think they're football players, and I don't even think they have rights as people. But like spending a top 100 pick on a kicker and then using it on a safety, Steve Wilkes got the most out of Jair Brown, and Jair Brown is falling completely out of favor right now. So like Steve Wilkes was a scapegoat for why the 49ers lost that Super Bowl, but they left the field with the lead before, Steve Wilkes, his defense, gave up the touchdown with no time left. But Steve Wilkes was far more blamed for than I agree with in 2023.
Yeah, and Cardinals fans, we can say that like there was a bunch of issues. Wilkes was part of that issue, but fundamentally their whole issue was they probably needed to like clean house after Bruce Arians. They brought in Steve Wilkes, and then we're like, here's Josh Rosen for you, buddy. And everything was so bad that a year later they're like, yeah, we want to take Nick Bosa, but our quarterback is I think that if I remember correctly, they traded him to the Dolphins. We were like shocked that they got a 2nd-round pick for him, and then went out and spent it on Andy Isabella. Like, oh great, DK Metcalf was sitting right there, and you're all right. Thanks guys. So very much interesting as far as the last couple of years. Now that, like you said, the Cardinals have gone out and people have just been like, oh, like nice job. Like, you're starting to draft pretty well. It's part of why this division has gotten back from the Cardinals being like the kind of biting at your ankles, but then getting stomped on at the end of the year to like potentially seeing if they can take the next step this year. And we'll see if they end up actually taking that step, or if this is going to be that same sort of late season collapse that they've gotten adjusted to doing over the last couple of years.
What I'll
Blake,
say, guys,
real quick. Blake,
real quick.
Oh, I'm sorry, my bad, Bryce. And I'll pass it to you, Bryce, because you're the host. Josh Rosen and Andy Isabella, 49ers legends, by the way.
Mm-hmm. Those two connected for one of the greatest touchdowns that cut the lead to like, what was it, 2 touchdowns or something like that in the lead? Or something?
No, remember in 2020
oh, that's right.
when
you had them.
In 2020, Josh Rosen joins on the practice squad. Yep. Andy Isabella was in training camp for half a week before he hit IR. So 49ers legends, Andy Isabella. What's your favorite Andy Isabella and Josh Rosen moment? There's so many I couldn't even choose from.
Yeah, there was just that one, I think, at least against the Niners. Obviously, of course, with Niners legend Sam Darnold now is on the opposing sideline for the most part for whatever game. So you got all of that going for you too.
So what I'll say, guys, is I'll just pivot here to the strength of the Seahawks. It's the defense. We can discuss it at more length, but I'll say this. I will say the pivotal moment for Seattle drafting wise that got better was the Russell Wilson trade. Somehow when that trade occurred, the philosophy in that building changed on how we're going to draft. They took Charles Cross, and then Denver did the greatest thing ever and was just god awful and gave us JSN and Witherspoon in the first round, which Jason's just. And then hey, you pivot this year. We get Gray Zabel, and then someone lets us trade back up.
Oh, Mr. Big Stuff over here with his good drafting team, man. Nobody wants to hear that.
I was glad the Seahawks got any offensive lineman. That was
I went through a horrible set of years of terrible drafting. We took Malik McDowell, and that guy never played a snap. That was horrible, that 27 draft class.
Thank you for Buda Baker, by the way. We were like, he's not going to make it to us. And then we traded up. As soon as he made it past Seattle Cardinals, they're like, trade up. We're like, finally, even our general manager, who took Rosen, who took all these different picks, had all these issues, like, left for rehab, whatever you want to say about all of that. He at least was smart enough to go and make a move for Buda Baker once the Seahawks passed on him. So.
Hey, raise your hand if your team burned a pick on a damn kicker. Like, oh my God, man, what are we talking about with drafting?
Well, we took an all-pro punter with one of ours. I'm just saying.
At least he was all-pro. Look, hold on. Mitch Wisnowski was taken in the 4th round before 2019. Now he's out of the league and he can't play anymore. And the San Francisco 49ers burned a top 100 pick when it was DeJuan Jones and a bunch of guys on the board who actually play football. They drafted a kicker. I cannot wait for Jake Moody to be a Los Angeles Charger so we can say that Jim Harbaugh fixed another quarterback because he apparently fixed Trey Lance.
Right, yeah, so you and I can sympathize a little bit. The Rams and Seahawks took D. Westbridge and Tutu Atwell ahead of Creed Humphrey.
God. That name D. Eskridge is like saying Voldemort in Seattle. Watching Creed Humphrey. We need a center. No, we're gonna take this guy out of Western Michigan as that's gonna solve our problems because we were living through the curse of Max Unger. Let's go after the Super Bowl. We couldn't score from the 1-yard line because we threw the ball to a special teams receiver in Ricardo Lockett. No. We're not gonna fix the receiving court. No, we are. We're going to get a tight end, but we're going to trade the key cog of our offensive line where we ran the ball all over everybody. Like, my God,
that was a rough trade. Now, I have a Creed Humphrey story on our end, too, because Cardinals decided to take Rondale Moore over him. Find out why didn't they take Creed Humphrey? Well, the report that came out was he's a left-handed snapper, as far as snapping the ball. We don't know how a quarterback will adjust to a left-handed snapper. We're like, oh, wow, it's crazy. Who was Kyler Murray's center in college? Oh, it was Creed Humphrey. Oh, I wonder what film you could. So we're like, you are an idiot, is what we were talking about to the general manager. They take Rondale Moore. Poor guy is torn. I think he's probably torn 4 ACLs at this point.
No, he has. He got carted off in Minnesota too.
It's just one of those areas where you're like, oh, this is just great. Take an injury-prone guy for the most part instead of just pro center. It's great. It's just. So every team in the NFC West has had our drafting issues. I think every team has had drafting issues. I think ours we just can take more personally.
No, we all have those guys in the draft that we like. I love Rondale Moore, right? Like I'm still thinking that Curtis Samuel is going to break out in 2020 in Jesus' big year of 2025. I still think Curtis Samuel is going to break out. So we all have those guys. I didn't realize the Creed Humphrey thing until you brought it up. I'll never say anything bad about Rondale Moore because I just feel like he just was miscast at certain points and just ended up in the wrong place. So I love draft talk. That's the best part of all this is just going back to all the draft takes that we had.
Oh yeah.
So I'll say this: the reason Seattle wins the division, in my opinion, will be the offense finally clicks. Like I've been saying, the offense has been a problem. If it clicks and we can run the ball and protect Sam Darnold, this defense will play not well enough. And I think Seattle's in that weird area that we kind of were in 2011, 2012, where you've got a good chunk of the team in the right areas and you're able to start ascending in the right direction. You just have to make sure you've got the right quarterback, you've got the right offensive philosophy. They hired Darrell Bevel back then. He came from Minnesota. We got Marshawn Lynch. We developed a running game, and then we kind of took off. And on that note, how much are you guys loving seeing Marshawn Lynch as a photographer on NFL sidelines? After
I love it.
Hampton fumbled, he goes right over, sneaks in behind the bench, and starts talking to Hampton about, hey, dude, don't go out of bounds. Do this, do that. And it's it's great. Marshawn is still one of the best characters the NFL has ever had.
Bryce, also, by the way, 2 Seattle legends have turned their careers in professional sports into personal photography. That is Marshawn Lynch and Ken Griffey Jr.
There's
and
a third.
I cannot.
There's
there's a third. Go for it.
Randy Johnson.
The Diamondbacks pitcher, who is a Seattle
Yeah.
Mariner. I believe
All right.
it was the
Yep.
acquisition.
But
He's standing on the sideline with both of those guys. You're like,
So
hey,
what-
Ken
oh
Griffey,
my God.
Johnson, you guys were rivals, like pitching. Now you're standing as photographers and the
So-
NFL.
So this goes, you know what's funny? This NFC West thing goes a little bit deeper, right? Randy Johnson, Seattle legend. Randy Johnson, Arizona legend. Randy Johnson, Yankee fan. I refuse to remember when he was a Yankee. So like, it's just all Randy
so
Johnson
weird.
ever did in his life was just stop us from winning championships, and then he joins the Yankees and stops us from winning championships. Appreciate you, Randy Johnson, bro. Like
Inside
we
agent.
love you, man.
All right, guys. So we'll pivot here to our week 1 picks. So, Blake, let's start up with you in Arizona. You guys have the Saints, I believe, this week opening. How do you feel going into that game? And are you picking, obviously, your Cardinals to win?
I mean, you got probably one of the lowest as far as when it comes to like NFL quarterbacks from the state of Arizona. Like you've got Ryan Fitzpatrick is there, but the Niners, of course, are starting like probably now the number 1 guy because he's been to a Super Bowl. Right up the road from where I went to high school, by the way, too.
Drafted.
There's people who are like, yeah, so Brock Purdy, yeah, I went to prom with him. Like, wait, what? Like, oh yeah, it's great. Friends that you know, at least who went to prom with, Brock Purdy. But you've got Spencer Rattler, who is a highly recruited guy out of Arizona, lost his job to Caleb Williams. He's the guy who's starting over the top 40 pick that the Saints drafted. It just feels like this is one of those areas where the Saints are in the midst of kind of their own retool that they had. The difference being that instead of having Kyler Murray coming back at least off of that ACL injury at some point, Saints, I don't know if they've got the guy in the building, or if they do, it's going to be a little bit of adjusting at least for their draft pick. You also have the guy you talked about as being a hot dog salesman, and Brandon Staley is the guy who's the opposing defensive coordinator on the other side. It's a road game. It's week 1, but it does really feel like you probably couldn't ask for an easier opening game as far as for the Cardinals to go and open up on the road before they come back home. This is one of the spots where everything's going to get jacked. Everyone's going to be like, going crazy, or just kind of have a little bit of those opening nerves. But it really feels like the Cardinals are just in a different level now, talent-wise. When you take a look at the different depth charts with the Saints, they're starting a rookie up against the Cardinals' new acquisition, Josh Sweat. You're going to be talking about having to see who on their linebacker room is going to be tasked with guarding Trey McBride. It just feels like it's one of those spots where the offense is going to be there, and this is a Saints defense that's going to be missing their starting left guard. We'll see how it goes as far as with the tackles. You got 2 young tackles on the outside. It's pretty easy to say that Arizona should probably win this game. They're right now, I believe, 6.5-point favorites. I think you would take that and say Arizona should win by a touchdown, possibly more. It just is one of those spots, at least, where you feel like unless there's a complete and total sort of like meltdown where everything can go wrong, you should expect Arizona to go in there, run the ball effectively, be able to make it work, and then on the defensive side, handle business against the young, probably not starting caliber quarterback in Spencer Rattler. I've got the Cardinals being able to win in this game week 1, start off the season on a good note.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest, Blake. I don't know how you guys don't beat New Orleans.
I always say never, but again, this is one of those things of like, I'd put a house payment on it. That's all I'll say. I'd put a house payment on the Cardinals going into New Orleans.
If it doesn't go well, I think there's got to be more soul searching in Arizona on what's going on, because even if Rattler gets chased from the game or doesn't get chased in the game, Tyler Shuck's the next guy, and he's an old rookie. Like, let's not all forget the good old
also
Brandon
from Arizona.
Wheaton.
It's kind of weird. Like, why is it all young Arizona quarterbacks are either Brock Purdy going to a Super Bowl or are like starting for the Saints?
Wait a minute, Blake. I don't know, man. You gotta think about vibes, and you gotta think about storylines. If Tyler Show gets in this game, then this is like starting to line up like a Disney movie. You better hope Rattler just finishes this game completely out.
Oh man, if Shelf gets into the game, for the most part, I'll like be happy for him to get the opportunity, but I'll be very worried for his parents on the sideline, because I probably have friends who know his parents. Like, I think it's like an RV or like a pool business or something like that. Like, I remember it's like people like, oh yeah, I went to his parents. He's a draft pick. Cool. I went over and got a jacuzzi from like his parents. It's like, it's just funny when you like get to have like some of those athletes that like go on to have careers. Just like, oh really? Like, oh, it's kind of crazy.
All right, Blaine, let's pivot to you before me and Jason start talking about our divisional matchup. Blaine, how do you feel the Rams are going to handle the Texans, and do you think Matthew Stafford will make it out of that game alive?
Yeah, I'd be more than happy to swap Houston, the Houston opponent with Blake's Saints, and just just get out of week one with a dub. But I think this is going to be a very ugly football game. It's going to be. I think obviously you look at C.J. Stroud, Matthew Stafford, Nico Collins, Puka Nakuni, you see maybe a shootout happening, but I don't see it that way at all. You look at the Texans' offensive line. You have Jared Verse going up against a rookie in Ariante Ursary, and I did like Ursary as a prospect, but I think he's a little raw and going to need a little time to develop. So I think that's a matchup that Rams are going to be able to take advantage of. You have Ingram on the inside, who's one of the worst, I think, guards in the NFL. So that's another matchup for Kobe Turner and Braden Fisk. But at the same time, you look at the other side, you have Will Anderson and Danielle Hunter, who is probably one of the better edge rushing duos in the NFL, going up against Alaric Jackson, who just started practicing this week, and Rob Havenstein, who isn't getting any younger. So no, I think this is going to be a game that comes down to which defense maybe makes a game-changing play. I think the Rams at home do have a little bit of an advantage. I think they're 3.5-point favorites. I don't know if I would take them to cover, but I'll take them to win by a field goal, 23-20.
All right. And yeah, Blake, you didn't give us a score prediction.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I was going to go with 31-14, but I have that 14 being like a garbage time, like late sort of touchdown where the coach will get after the other guys. Also, we didn't even talk about with NFC West, like one player who was in the NFL that was active in that 2008 Super Bowl the Cardinals went to is back on the Arizona Cardinals this year. You got Calais Campbell back in the division, which is going to be interesting. What's his final year? So that's one of the other X factors. I looked at the lineup and it's like, oh, look, you got a young backup offensive lineman going up against Calais Campbell, who's still making plays at 38 years old. I was like, oh, good Lord. Like that's one of those areas for the first opening week matchup. So good luck, NFC West. He's back, I guess.
Gold jacket for Calais Campbell.
I know.
Yeah.
He's a two Hall of Fame worthy careers. Like he was with us. Like, he could be a Hall of Famer. Goes to Jacksonville.
Yeah.
Another Hall of Fame career. It's like, what the heck? The man just keeps basically aging like fine wine. And now he's back. Now he's back. So
Blaine, you got
all right. All right, Jason.
I was going to say that this will be the first time that Sean McVay has gone up against D'Amico Ryan since that wonderful NFC Championship game back in 2021.
Right.
That's his only win against D'Amico Ryan's.
Full circle.
I don't understand why you want to, like open up a scab. I literally paid $800 to sit on the roof in SoFi for that NFC Championship game. Before, you know what's funny is I plan to stay in LA during that time because the Super Bowl was 2 weeks away, and there was a lady friend that was allowing me to stay there. And you know what? When the game was over, I booked my flight to Mobile and went straight to the Senior Bowl. So thanks, Blaine.
Nice.
You know what? I wasn't thinking about any trauma or anything like that today, but I'm glad that you brought that up. I'm glad.
Cardinals Rams playoff game.
Full circle.
Cardinals Rams playoff game. What Cardinals Rams playoff game? There was no Cardinals Rams.
No, I literally was in.
I never went there.
I literally was in SoFi. We watched the AFC Championship game end, and the Bengals won. And the 49er fans, we all started high-fiving each other like, oh, my God, we're going to win the Super Bowl because Patrick Mahomes is not going to make the Super Bowl. Ha ha, joke's on you. You don't even make the Super Bowl that year. But, congrats, Blaine. I appreciate that.
Of course.
All right, Jason. Well, I guess we have to kind of talk together on this, considering our teams are going to be playing each other. And we already did that a little bit earlier today on your podcast, the Sprint Right Option podcast, which was a lot of fun.
Yep.
All right, so let's break this down, Jason. You guys are coming to Seattle.
Yep.
It's week one, and it's almost like in a weird way, this is like a kind of, for me at least, it's a flashback to when Seattle fell short of the Super Bowl, and they kept trying to still be that team. And
you saying that about us?
Yeah, about you guys. Like, it just feels like great. Like, to your point, you still have a lot of talent. You have Fred Warner, you have George Kittle, Brock Purdy, CMC. But it's like the other pieces around that group are kind of just this not sure who they are yet kind of a thing. How's it going to work together? And I look at it and I go, from Seattle's perspective, we're in the opposite direction now. Like, we got our defense. It's pretty much solidified. You love our defense, but hate it as a 49ers fan.
I hate it.
And we went and hired probably the only offensive coordinator that could relatively make us competitive again offensively in this division. How do you feel your Niners are going to stand up against Seattle in Seattle week one?
I hate it. Week one is the worst week to have one of these games. Just based on the variety and the way that week one is wonky. And I've told you that like many times, Bryce. I don't like this because Last year, the Pats beat the Bengals. Jake Moody made 8 kicks in one game in week one, then proceeded to miss 10 for the rest of the season. I don't like the matchup. But I will say this, if any 49er fan is watching this, if you want some sort of, nice thing to think about, is it's almost good that this game is happening in week one. And I'll say this, Bryce. I don't want the fully fleshed Seattle defense, right? Like the week 8, week 9 defense that is going to be fully fleshed and you guys have completely figured things out. Week one's weird. Week one's wonky. I'll take you guys in week one being wonky, right? Like in a little bit out of sorts, just based on that. Like there's still a feeling out process right now, like when it comes to that. And it depends all on, is Christian McCaffrey going to play? If Christian McCaffrey is going to play, then things get very much different. Because no disrespect to Brian Robinson, no disrespect to Isaac Garendo, no disrespect to, 49ers legend Kyle Juszczyk, who he kills blades of grass more than anything. No. I understand Kyle Juszczyk's. I'm just being funny. It it really just like boils down to like, you know what? Like I've kind of talked myself into being happy about this game happening in week one, even though week one is weird. I'm just hoping it's weird for you guys. Because if you guys figure it out in week 8, week 9, you are going to be a formidable defense. You have a chance to be a top 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 defense in the NFL. Week 1 is the week to prey on this defense while you guys figure it all out. But I don't want to face you guys in week 10 when Nick Emenwari is Kyle Hamilton and all of a sudden is playing close to the line, playing back and moving around. And I don't want to see any of that. So you know what? I've got the 49ers winning this game because they won't let me back into 49ers Twitter or YouTube if I chose different. But I'm kind of glad that this is happening, and I'm hoping that the chaos happens more on your end than the 49ers end in this one.
So for me in this one, I feel like Seattle's defense will actually start faster than most people anticipate because they're returning, what is it, out of the 15 guys that took snaps last year on that defense, like relatively meaningful snaps, they're returning 11 of them. Like we're substituting Nick Emenwari for basically Rayshon Jenkins and bringing on DeMarcus Lawrence. We aren't going to have Chenna this game, but he'll eventually be back. So for me, I look at it and go, Seattle's defense might start faster than most people expect. But for me, the worry in this game does come to the offense. That's the thing that I'm like, that needs to get on track and show it can be on track sooner rather than later. And last year, you look what happened with our defense. It took till the trade deadline, getting Ernest Jones. By the way, thank you again, Blaine, for trading him to Tennessee and then giving us back for nothing. I'll take that all day. But that's where I look at it with Seattle is if they can establish the run, if they don't put too much pressure on Sam Darnold to go win the game, I think that's the recipe for success until everyone is comfortable, right? Like you're breaking in Cooper Kupp and JSN to being a number one. And you've got Elijah Arroyo, who again, I'm so happy we drafted him in the second round as a flex tight end for us. It's great. And Torrey Horton, who is another guy that we stole in the draft this year that I think is going to be better than people expect. But all that's so new and trying to get that all working on the same page, this run game is going to be crucial in getting that done. So I think Seattle wins. I think it's 27-17, but I think it's a late field goal that makes it 27. I think it's probably a one-score game, 24-17, and that 24, that extra, like it's 17-17. I think maybe Seattle scores with 7 minutes left, then makes it 24. The Niners try to go down the field. They have to punt, play defense, and Seattle's able to squeak a field goal out to win the game. That's how I see it going. I think it's going to be one of those games that we're all going to be glued to our seat as football psychos like myself being one because of the scheme within the scheme in this game. Saleh against Clint Kubiak and the way that they want to play each other. McDonald versus Kyle Shanahan and that matchup and how that's going to go. It's going to be very interesting to see what the counter punches are, at least for me as a coach myself, is like, okay, so Robert Saleh did this in the first quarter. How is Clint Kubiak going to come back in the second quarter? Because that's the biggest thing Seattle will have now is they'll have an offensive coordinator that can actually counterpunch. Ryan Grubb, as was actually put in our chat, which was great. Grubb is a scrub. is basically a very good wordplay for it, because even at Alabama, they looked awful with Ryan Grubb calling plays down there. So it's going to be nice to have an actual offensive staff again that is an NFL quality one and not something that's a gimmicky one that came from college. And don't get me wrong, I was super excited to see what Ryan Grubb could do coming out of that Washington team. But man, after the first 6 weeks, I was like, oh no, this was a mistake. We're in some serious trouble here.
I'll say this real quick about what you were saying. Football cycles are going to love this game. And if I was not a 49ers fan or, somebody who was invested in this game, I would be looking at this as the ultimate chess match. And this is what's going to be fun about this. By the way, I didn't give my prediction. I've got it 27-21, and it's going to come down to either the 49ers stopping Seattle when it comes to winning the game, or Brock Purdy going down. But you know what's funny is undercover cops, whatever it is that is going to be there, dressed as 49ers fans, it's still going to be a loud environment. And that's the part that you really have to sit there and put together. I don't want to point to whatever happened last year when, Brock Purdy went in there 2024. I don't want to point to 2023. I feel like, yes, history is an indicator to the future, but I feel like you're discounting what this is going to be in 2025. And Bryce, I told you this earlier. I don't like bringing up all this stuff about, oh, well, he kicked their ass in 2023. And that has nothing to do with what is going on today. And if you lose that context, you are going to find yourself in Homerland. I am not in Homerland, even though I'm a big Simpsons fan. I'm not in Homerland 100%. I understand exactly what the Cardinals, the Rams, and Seattle bring to this division, and I'm not exactly excited for this game in week 1. I will 100% say that. 100%.
We look on the bright side, Jason. We don't play each other again until week 18, so we get it at bookends. It'll be great.
That game won't matter. That game won't matter. It won't matter for one way. That game won't matter for one way or another. It's hilarious to me. And those trash ass jerseys that the 49ers want to run out there, by the way, I hate them and they're awful. They're by far the worst.
Oh, okay. So while we do that, before we get into viewer Q&As, 2 things. I don't know if anyone else is watching the game right now, but did you all see Patrick Mahomes act like he was going to go out and then completely obliterate the corner?
He lowered the truck stick, and
I know, but I don't want to see him get another flag this year for flopping out of bounds. If you're going to pull that,
he's done that so many times.
Yeah. I know, but that's what annoys me. This year, if he does that and someone lights his ass up, there needs to be no flag.
He's playing like he's trying to get an invitation to the Travis Kelce Taylor Swift wedding is probably what he's trying to do out there. Just lowering the truck stick.
If I'm a head coach and he lights up Patrick Mahomes and gets thrown out of the game or something like that,
you're probably
he's going to get the 5 stars in the film room, and I'm going to say, you know what? No matter what fine or suspension you get and whatever you lose, I'll pay it. Because you have to
let's not bring Bountygate back. Let's not bring Bountygate back.
I mean, it didn't. But Bountygate didn't work because they didn't win the 49ers went and they finished the job or whatever, right? What I mean is play through the whistle, do all those coach speak things and everything. I 100% would say, listen, man, if you don't set the message, then nobody's going to do anything. No one's going to do anything. They're just going to let this slide. If you fake slide, Kenny Pickett, fake slid in college football. It changed all the rules. Why on earth in the NFL doesn't it change any of the rules when it comes to the game that's far superior?
I don't know.
You're not wrong there. Okay, let's pivot to this quickly, guys. Let's go into NFL rivalry jerseys quickly. I'm just going to ask you if you love or hate yours. Blaine, I'll start with you. Rams, do you love it, hate it?
I actually really like it. I kind of like that they went with it's black. It's more of like a really dark blue kind of midnight. And I will say I don't think I saw another backup quarterback take in the photo shoot. But Jimmy GQ, going back to our conversation earlier, Jimmy GQ was there in the marketing photos, looking fine as always. So,
all right, Jason, what is your thought? Obviously on the San Francisco ones, did you think they should have gone another way?
Those shit suck, but man, oh my God, he said Jimmy GQ. My God, man, that man is he's Oh man, you need that handsome factor in your quarterback room. I'm gonna die on that hill.
What do you mean? Drew Lock with his little mustache in Seattle doesn't count as having some
Look,
handsomeness? Come on.
Bryce, Drew Lock is different. Drew Lock knows all the words to put on by Young Jeezy.
Exactly. And he's
that
got
is
the
something.
drip. He's got the drip
Yeah.
of backups.
Drew Lock
Listen,
has Kendrick's like Not Like Us album probably memorized at this point. Like, so.
listen, look, there's ways to evaluate quarterbacks, right? You want to go play, you want to go drip, you want to go looks. All of those things completely are part of this. But yes, those rivalry jerseys are dog shit. They look like Timu jerseys. They look like if you go into they look like if you went on Timu, right? What's up, Puffs? They look like if you went on the Timu and you said 49ers jersey, and it would come up and it would be that. Look, 49ers fans hated the black jerseys. They were whatever to me. It's fine. Like during the Chip Kelly era, it's easy to hate everything. And during the Jim Tom Sula era, you could hate everything. Um, I'm not a fan of the jersey, but I will tell, and I see a 49ers fan in here, by the way. Shout out to you. Um, if you like it, great. I love it. I cannot stand it. I think it looks awful, and I think that it doesn't matter. And I can't wait for Mac Jones and Isaac Guerrero to play in them because that game's not going to matter one way or another. And that's my shit talk that I'll offer to the chat real quick.
All right, Blake, what do you think of your Cardinals ones?
They're pretty tight. Like one thing we've said about with Cardinals is like there are Cardinals out here, but they're mostly in the north. Like Phoenix is just a desert city. So like actually having a Desert Storm themed jersey where it's got like the dirt has been slapped across the jersey for the most part has been something that's really cool with a good shade of tan. And they brought back the patch. Like if you Google like the 2000 Arizona Cardinals jersey with the state flag, which is like the best state flag of any of the state flags in the U.S. on the side of the jersey, like that thing is classic. They finally brought those patches back after like 20 years of fans asking for them. Like those are pretty sick for the most part. I think there's, I know, a little image of one of the sides that I pulled up at least for the video for that one there, but like you look at that, you're like, oh yeah, that's pretty tight. Like everyone pretty much said universally that even if it wasn't your favorite jersey of the rivalries jersey, it was easily in the top 2 or 3 amongst everyone. So thought that was a home run.
Looks like Doodoo was sprint across it. I'm just
we do have a boobs. That's what they're called out here. It's a giant desert storm. Like you just look through there. Probably like, oh, that's what it's called.
I'm just being a jerk. Like I promise you, I'm just joking. I promise.
Well, unfortunately, when we did that, Blake and Blaine switched up top there, so it's all good. But for the Seahawk ones, like
same name, right? So just swapping.
Yeah,
swapping places.
Blaine and Blake's kind of same area, swap a little bit there. But
I get called Blake weekly, so it's fine.
There you go, perfect. We can with Seattle's ones. I love the helmet. The helmet's cool, like the iridescent green helmet that they've gone to. I wondered if they were going to bring back the wolf gray jersey because I feel like the action green kind of wore its time in Seattle. I would have preferred the jersey to be like a dark blue or like almost like a black instead of a gray with the green coming off of it. I think it would have looked a lot better, but overall the design I'm not mad at. I'm not a overly like, even though I have it behind me here, the wolf gray jersey, like it's framed in a box with the 12 on it. Like it's great. It's nice, but it's not one of my favorite jerseys all time. So I'm okay with them. Like, I don't think they're the best. I still think our best jersey is the retro jersey. Our blue retro jersey is probably one of the nicest jerseys in the NFL. So yeah.
Your helmet was great, but the jersey was Oregon Ducks like. Yes, that's kind of the first thing I thought of with that. So
right, Bryce, your Steve Largent gray helmet. And those are
the throwbacks, our throwback retros.
Yeah. Like honestly, when we played you guys on Thursday Night Football, fine. Yeah. I'm excited to see you guys. But us in the 94 against you in those Steve Largent jerseys, I was like, this is the greatest jersey aesthetic in the history of football, and you can't change my mind.
Well, I've heard rumblings that if Seattle does redesign, it'll be taking like their logo as it is currently and a little bit of what they currently have in their home in a way, and the way they've modernized it, but mixing it with the retro blue and white style and silver helmet, which is, I think, the best way. You kind of kill 2 birds with 1 stone in a way that way. But Blake, you had a question for Blaine. You said you wanted to ask him. Go for it. Shoot.
Yeah, so I wanted to ask you about Cooper Kupp because he's moved from one team to the other. Rams outright released him. He's supposed to be a huge part of their offense, and it just seemed like that was one of the questions I had for you. Was like, does he have stuff left at the tank at 32? How do you feel like that's going to be with going to a rival?
Yeah, no, it's definitely gonna be weird. It was weird back when Isaac Bruce went over to the 49ers. It's gonna be just as weird with seeing Cooper Kupp wearing that neon green Seahawks jersey. Yes, 49ers legends, Isaac Bruce, unfortunately.
Good call. Oh my God, good call.
Yes. No, but I think he's gonna go into Seattle with a little bit of a chip on his shoulder. I don't think he was really happy with how things ended in Los Angeles, just given everything that he gave to the franchise over his career. I think he wanted a little bit of a better ending. So I do think he kind of goes in with the chip on his shoulder. With that said, Cooper Kupp last year he's had too much. The injuries have started to accumulate, and he's lost the explosiveness in and out of his breaks that he had back in 2021 and even in early 2022. And really, a lot of his success last year came on a vertical plane because he couldn't. Like I said, he lost that explosiveness out of his breaks that made him just such a special player. But I'm excited to see what he does. Hopefully there's no revenge game or anything against the Rams and he goes off. But obviously wish him the best.
I'll say from my perspective of seeing Kupp firsthand this offseason in training camp, I think he's going to shock people. I think there's a strong case to say that Cooper Kupp is not a receiver 2 in Seattle. He actually might be receiver 1B in Seattle. Even though JSN's here, I've got a weird feeling. Everyone talks about JSN being, and don't get me wrong, I think JSN's going to be phenomenal. But I think there's going to be a factor if people are going to try and take away JSN, and you're going to see Cooper get a lot more one-on-one looks and stuff like that. And even though he may have lost a step, which I don't think is completely true with his injury because he looks fast, like quick and twitchy like Cooper Kupp used to. And I don't think he's going to be 2021 Cooper Kupp. I think Cooper Kupp goes for over 1,000 yards and has 8 touchdowns in Seattle this year and is actually a 1B, not a receiver 2 in Seattle. And it's one of the things I put in my season prediction show. I think he gets 85, 87 catches for close to 1,100 yards and 8 touchdowns in Seattle. And that's still with JSN
boost
producing.
From last year. Yeah, because he was at 65, 64 last year on 100 targets. So that was a down year for him a year ago. So
yeah.
Yep. Jason was a little bit surprised.
No, if you're talking about wide receivers, man, how can you not be excited about Ricky Pearsall this season? Like if we're just gonna go with the wide receiver narrative, Ricky Pearsall has got to be a guy that you're excited about. For me, that is the guy that he's the X factor for the 49ers this season. If Ricky Pearsall finds a way to be the guy that they believe he is, and what you saw down the stretch, Blake Murphy, you saw this in the game that Jawan Jennings got ejected, and he went in there 6 for, a nice amount of yards, a 69 and a touchdown. And he had about 100-something yards against the Lions. He figured it out at the end of the year. Funny what happens to a receiver when they don't get shot and they have to, get through like a season. Ricky Pearsall is really like the X factor for the 49ers. If he can unlock a little bit of that moving forward, and if Brandon Ayuk returns as the guy, this offense, as we've seen with the 49ers, when they have a dominant X who can get himself open, is when this gets, crazy for this offense. Ricky Pearsall has got to be at the forefront of like, oh, wow, if he pops off, this is going to change a little bit differently. And by all accounts, it can't. By all accounts of what he's done, he looks good.
Yeah, Arizona, by the way, legend Ricky Pearsall grew up probably about 10 minutes away from where I live out here in Chandler. He has the all-time record for receiving yards in a game, by the way, which I only remember that because when he got drafted as a Phoenix guy, you're like, how many receiving yards do you have in a game? 342. Oh, in high school.
Oh,
great.
But you know what's funny?
Gotta love it, at least for like you're talking about with all these weird little connections with like how all of these Phoenix players have ended up in the NFC West. It's been kind of funny, especially with, Niners. It's like, hey, look, it's 2 Phoenix high school legends with Brock Purdy throwing to Ricky Pearsall Jr. Just kind of crazy that it happened to be a division rival and not for the local team.
Do you want a crazy stat? Derrick Henry's been in the NFL for 9 years, and he still hasn't amassed the rushing yards that have been in his senior year of high school.
Yeah. No, he was
That
the
literally
greatest high
makes
school, one of the greatest high school football
sense.
players we've ever seen. Like, people talk about Kyler Murray as like the best high school player we've seen, went 42-0, set and broke the records. I'm like, Derrick Henry is still, in my opinion, a better overall player just from how crazy his high school rushing records are. That's insane.
That makes no sense that he's been playing for 9 years in the NFL and has been as dominant as he has, and he still hasn't beaten that 1 year.
He was born, I think he was born when at 6'2", weighing 200 pounds, I think is probably what he was born at. So,
look, all right. Put yourself in this body. You are a 16-year-old, 17-year-old high school player. You're in the secondary, and you see Derrick Henry running at you at this height, and you have to go tackle him. You have to go tackle him, and because you're going to be put in the film room where they're going to start to point you out, and you have to try to go tackle him high. You try to tackle him low, and not only does he just jump over you or run through you, like it's insane to think what Derrick Henry is. And when you talk about the running back rules, like 27 is like already too old for a running back. It doesn't matter what age Derrick Henry is. Derrick Henry is Derrick Henry, and that's the exception to the rule.
Well, James Conner's been one of those too. He's hitting 30, and he's been getting more and more yards every year as he's gotten older. It's been something that, from Niners, Seahawks fans, seeing him score all those touchdowns the last couple of years. It's part of what makes this division ultimately cool is the fact that there's a lot of really talented running backs and defensive players that are in this division, and the quarterbacks are ultimately going to still be, I think, what it comes down to for who's going to ultimately be the division winner is probably going to be the guy who goes out there and is able to push the team a step forward.
All right, guys. Well, let's pivot to this. We got a couple of Q&As in here we'll wrap this show up here within the next 10 minutes because I know it's getting late there for Jason over there on the other side of the coast, but we'll start with this one. Comes in from I'd rather be flying an X-Wing, one of the guys in my chat and supports my show. He goes, for each host, what scares you most about each of the other teams? So, Blake, we'll start with you. What scares you about the Cardinals, the 49ers, and the Seahawks?
Yeah. So what scares me about the Seahawks the most is not just that defense, but how that pass rush is going to affect. Because we saw last year, Kyler Murray turning the ball over at inopportune times kind of killed the Cardinals season with those 2 losses. For the Niners, if that offense is able to get working and then you are able to bring back a Brandon Ayuk, like the biggest thing I think it comes down to is, does that rushing attack end up working? Because Christian McCaffrey ate the Cardinals for breakfast in 2023. Like it was just, no person could match up on them, at least for the most part. They just linebackers that we had is one of our biggest weaknesses. So that was something that destroyed. For the Rams, you're going to have Puka Nacua and Devontae Adams. Those are going to be a veteran receiver and one of the best young receivers we've seen going up against if Matthew Stafford's throwing the ball, even if it's a backup like a Jimmy Garoppolo throwing the ball. That's a young cornerback group for the most part, where if you're able to see some of those big plays get made down the field where the Cardinals aren't going to be able to kind of focus on stopping the run and then kind of getting pressure against some of those offensive tackles you're talking about, it could end up being a really tough, long sort of day if the Cardinals offense is having to throw the ball a ton against Jared Verse and that Rams pass rush.
All right, Blaine, let's pivot to you. What scares you about the Cardinals, Niners, and Rams?
I'm going to kind of follow the same theme with all 3 teams here. With the Seahawks, it's the next step that I expect that defense to take. You're in year 2 of Mike McDonald now. Devin Witherspoon, Reek Woolen, Julian Love, all those guys. I think are going to take a. I think that's going to probably end up being. I think when we look at the end of the year, one of the top secondaries in the NFL. So I think that group kind of scares me the most. For the 49ers, it is Robert Saleh being back being back and in charge of that defense. I think that defense is going to be a lot more disciplined than it has in past years. And then with the Cardinals, kind of same thing. Is it's they got a stealing Will Johnson in the second round. So what steps does that defense take this year? Because they were looking pretty feisty there at the end of last year.
All right, Jason, what are your 3 worries about the division or scares you?
I'm going to keep it very simple and very short-worded, and I'm not a man of short words, clearly, as you guys have seen for the hour that we've been here. Bryce, with the Seahawks, it's the defense of Mike McDonald. With the Rams, it's Matthew Stafford and Sean McVay. With the Cardinals, it's Kyler Murray. those all of those things worry me. Like just like one after the other and for different reasons. The 49ers have never been able to contain a running quarterback, and Kyler Murray has been able to do whatever it is. With Bryce, I told you how many months ago, like I told you off the rip. I'm watching you guys, and then the preseason, you guys bust out all these exotic things that you're doing while you're in your vanilla stage. I don't like it. And as long as the Rams have Matthew Stafford and Sean McVay, you have to be afraid of them, man. Like it doesn't matter. Like Puka Nacua and Devontae Adams, like don't piss me off, man. Like don't piss me off. Like seriously. So yes, those are the ways that all these teams scare the hell out of me, man. It's just a division that it feels like crabs in a barrel, and everybody's gonna knock everybody down, which is why I hate the fact that we have to play Seattle in week one. I really just don't like that we have to set the season off with a division win or loss.
All right, and so for me, for the Seahawks, when I look at the Cardinals, thing that scares me the most is Kyler Murray actually becoming a full-fledged, consistent NFL quarterback, and that team taking that step because Kyler's inconsistency doesn't show up that we've come so accustomed to seeing. When I look at the Rams, it's three names. It's Jared Verse, it's Matthew Stafford, and it's Sean McVay. Those three as a group, that like trio is what scares me. You're getting a young pass rusher that I think is going to continue to get better. Stafford, when he's healthy and on, he's one of the still best quarterbacks in the NFL, and we've seen it. And Sean McVay is still one of the best, if not, it's a toss-up between him and Kyle for most innovative offensive mind. And the thing with McVay that I think scares me more than even Kyle Shanahan, McVay can go in at halftime and be like, cool, this game plan's not working. Here's another one in, 15 minutes, and it's going to work. And that's one of the things.
I love Kyle, but yeah, you're absolutely 100%. I don't blame anybody who chooses McVay over him. I really don't.
And then with the 49ers, it's a couple of things with the Niners. It's CMC being fully healthy for a year. It's that Robert Saleh comes back and brings that mojo back to that defense and gets them playing right, because when Robert Saleh was there, their defense was a vaunted unit that caused problems throughout the NFC. So that's kind of where I look at the things that scare me in this division. So that's a long answer for you there. I'd rather be flying an X-Wing, but now you've got kind of the view of each host. Bill Anderson, do you see – okay, so I'll ask you guys this. How many of you see the Seahawks really as a 7 or 8 win team this year? Considering they won 10 games last year with a dysfunctional offense, how many of you see us as a 7-8 win team like a lot of the national pundits have put out there?
I don't.
Blaine? You're on mute, Blaine. There you go.
Yeah. Sorry, noob move. I think I see them. I don't think I see them as a 7-8 win team. I think I see them more of an 8-9 win team. I could see them kind of on either side of that. I'd be surprised if they went 7-10. But I think they're going to be I think if they won 8 or 9 games, they'd be right there until the end, and I think that's something you could carry into a year 3 with Mike McDonald to I think take that next step in 2026.
All right, Blake.
You could talk me into the entire NFC West like being 9-8 this year for some reason. Like I think that the Seahawks I could see as a 9-win team. I think if the offensive line, like you said, stumbles and becomes the weak point of the team, like Gray's able, please stay healthy for the Seahawks fans' sakes is like what I'll say to that for the most part. We've seen that Darnold at least can have the tendency of having some turnovers at times. I think all of the quarterbacks in the NFC West for the most part, even with Matthew Stafford, it's been more of like in the late games. Like I think I remember the one year where they did make it to the Super Bowl. There still was a couple of weird brain farts that like were some just dumb picks that he made. And then of course it was tweaked and fixed into the playoff run. But I think that the Seahawks, I could see them being a 9-win team just on the strength of that defense alone. And the NFC West does get the benefit of playing the AFC South this year. I think there's a huge benefit that you're going to be able to see, along with I think a lot of us are playing at least one game against the NFC NFC East this year? Excuse me, NFC South this year. So it's like one of the Falcons, Panthers,
the NFC East too, and the South. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. So like you're going to get to play one of those, obviously, but like you really are going to see kind of a little bit of an easier schedule. It's not like we're going out against the NFC North. You're not going against like the likes of it's one of those places where, like you said, whoever ends up being the best team in the division, if one of the teams can be 4-2 in the division, that's going to determine who's probably first. If one team is 2-4 in the division, that's probably going to be the team that ends up going in last place. Those divisional games are going to be super important.
All right, we got another one in here from Steve. He goes, what would the record of each team be if they suffer injuries to their top 5 D linemen for nearly the entire season? So I'll go. Just give me your prediction. You guys lose at least 2 of your top defensive linemen on your team. What is your record? Jason, I'll start with you.
4-12, 4-13. Like, I mean, Christ, man. Like, what the hell are we talking about? Nick Bosa doesn't get to play football, and Michael Williams is hurt. Oh my God, yeah. You know what? This is a disgusting. Please look. This isn't wood, but God, I'm knocking on it. Please don't ever let that happen.
All right, Blake, what about you with the Cardinals? Are you
well-
terrified if you lose LJ Collier? Because, again, Seahawks royalty right there is LJ Collier.
I was going to say Cardinals already lost their starting 5 defensive linemen last year, and they still got to 8 wins for the most part. So it's not like to say that you would say, yeah, sure, bring it on. No, we don't want that. But I think it's like we've been able to see that Nick Rallis in the Palace has the chops to probably be a future defensive type of head coach someday. Like he's really, like we said, taken what's been a really roughshod unit. I think he's really going to shine this year now that he actually has some talent up front and plenty of talent with now a little bit of experience. It's still the veteran of the room, his 3rd-year corner, Garrett Williams, but he's still played incredibly effective for the most part. I think that we've seen enough from them that the Cardinals would probably be able to make their way to like a 7 or 8 win record if they lost all starting 5 defensive linemen. I just like Jason said, don't let that happen.
All right, Blaine, what happens if you guys lose Braden Fisk and Jared Verse?
Given that those 2 are the identity of this defense primarily, it would be a very bad thing. So I'd probably go with maybe 6 wins if that happened.
All right, and I'll say if Seattle lost Murphy and Leo, there goes Mike McDonald's defense. Like literally, there goes Mike McDonald's defense. And not saying that the other guys on the defense aren't good, but you're taking 2 of the guys that create as much pressure on the inside and stop the run as well as they do. Like I'd say Seattle's in the 4-win category if that were to happen.
Yeah, this is one thing about being a Cardinals fan. We've been playing on hard mode the last 2 years for the most part.
Yeah.
It's like, lose the 5 defensive line. No, what? Yeah, we still were able to go out and do 3-3 against the NFC West last year. Sure, go ahead.
All right, and we got an Arizona fan in here. We got Silver Wolf from Arizona. I think he's coming in from your channel over there, Blake. And he goes, strongest division in the NFL. Let's make sure that someone from the NFC West represents the NFC in the Super Bowl. Ooh. It's very possible, and that's the one thing I was going to touch on as we wrap this show up, guys, is when you look at the NFC West and you look at the other NFC divisions, the NFC as a conference is a crapshoot. Like even the Eagles, yes, they still look good, but they also kind of look a bit dysfunctional, obviously, with the Jalen Carter. Well, that's what I was going to say. Hold on. Let me specify here. They can still run the football. That's what the Eagles can still do well. A.J. Brown, wasted my fantasy pick there. My gosh, man. If anyone has Xavier Worthy and A.J. Brown, they're toast.
I know someone
he'll go off when he's on your
AJ Brown.
Yeah, exactly. But if you really look at our division, like to your point earlier, Blake, like this division, you could be 9 wins you the division because it could be a crapshoot. And I've said for a while, I don't see anyone in the NFC West, barring major injury, being below 8 wins, 7 wins. Like they're just, all the rosters are good enough that can be the case. And so when I look at that, like if one of us gets in the dance, this could be like, that New York Giants team that knocked in 09 or is it 09? Crap, where am I going? 07 that knocked off, Brady and the undefeated, Patriots teams where they just needed to get in as a wild card team. And then who knows what happens. That's how
Cardinals in 08. Cardinals in 08. They made
Cardinals in 08.
A 9-7 record.
The 2012 Ravens sneak into the playoffs. Joe Flacco gets hot and they go on their Super Bowl run for Ray Lewis's last year.
Oh, that's cool, man. Like, do you want to be more of a dick, Bryce? Like, do you want to bring up the 2020 Super Bowl or do you want to bring up last year's Super Bowl? Real quick, can you start Joseph's comment real quick? I'd love to respond to that. Like, if we got a chance or whatever here at the end. No, the one before that.
The one before that?
Yeah, the one before that. Yeah, like, but that's fine. But keep going on your thing, and we'll get to that. I just meant like star it and keep it in the background.
All right, guys. So that wraps up this first edition of the Gridiron Gang show, or Gridiron Gauntlet show, I should say. Sorry about that. Guys, we'll work out some of the kinks and stuff with this, but this show is going to come to you probably the first Friday of every week. So make sure you're tuned into all the different channels we all have here. Eventually, it'll be streamed to everyone's channel. The main host channel will rotate. So we'll figure out who's going to host next month, but it's going to come every month so we can recap that division, our division's month. And what I'll do right now, guys, is Blake, I'll start with you. Let everyone know where they can find more of your content that you create outside of this for the Arizona Cardinals.
Yeah, so we're actually doing kind of a cool new thing. We're starting a thing called the Cardinal Rule Network, which is going to be a YouTube channel where we got like 4 or 5 different podcasts. The Red Bird Reboot is going to be one of those podcasts, so it's the same content you guys have had before. For those who are following Cardinals fans, we always love bringing on people who are in the NFC West. We've reached out a couple of different times for show previews. We'll probably get some of you guys back onto our show as well as these games come up. We got 2 huge games for Cardinals and Niners and Seahawks all coming in the first 4 games of the season, weeks 3, and then that Thursday night football game with debut of those cool rivalries jerseys we were just talking about. But yeah, you can also follow on X at Blake Murphy 7, and the Red Bird Reboot podcast is at Red Bird Reboot. That's it for our side.
All right, Blaine, where can everyone find you and the Rams coverage you give?
Yeah, you can find all my work over at turfshowtimes.com, putting out a lot of written work over there. And then I am just kind of getting started in the YouTube game and doing the Rams call sheet. You can look up on YouTube and be sure to hit that subscribe button and follow along.
All right. And Jason, where can everyone find your work with the San Francisco 49ers?
You can find my work with not the worst team in the division, Joseph, whoever you are. I just want to let you know, like, and it's crazy that you would like, throw yourself out there and like have that least knowledgeable. But you can find me on YouTube with my 49ers content, Jason Aponte. You can also follow me on NinersNation.com. Don't blame me. I didn't make the name. I just write for them, and they pay me. It's an SB Nation place, and also Sprint Right Option Podcast, wherever you get your audio podcasts. And the YouTube channel has a ton of good stuff for 49ers fans who want to check this out. But it's kind of crazy that I have to admit the 49ers have the worst team in the division. Like, I just, the banter is good, and I think we've had all good discussions here. But the idea that the 49ers are somehow this awful team is just something that I will not tolerate, Joseph, whoever you are, guy.
So, yeah, guys, with me, all my stuff's over at the Hawk's Eye podcast, which is what's kind of posting the show today. I was on Jason's show earlier today, so go check out that episode that we talked about the 49ers Seahawks preview. And yeah, find me at the Seahawks Eye on Twitter as well as on Spotify for the Hawks Eye podcast. And what I'll say before we get off here, guys, is in the chat, guys, if you're going to be in there, let's just make sure it stays respectable. Don't get in there. Don't start being a dink in there and stuff. Just keep it all respectable.
Banter's fun. We love banter.
I'm good with banter. I'm good with banter too. I'm just laying out the rules, guys.
No, and you know what's funny? Joseph is a Niners fan. Joseph's a Niners
fan.
Oh, that's the funniest part.
All I'm saying is I don't want this to get spiked by YouTube because people have done stuff like that in the past. That's
we're good.
The banter's great. Keep the banter going.
We're good.
But let's just make sure that we keep it respectable in here because we've seen it go the wrong way, and I don't want to do that. So
we're good.
All good.
We're
all good, guys. We're all good. So, guys, catch us in a month here on another Friday night. We'll all be back, and we'll probably have more to talk about because the Seahawks will be 4-0 at that point after they knock off the Niners and the Cardinals in that 4-week span.
Go to hell,
just saying,
Bryce.
I'm going to leave that right there. All right, guys. Everyone, have a good night, and we'll see you guys next time. See ya.